Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp today on this gorgeous morning. Another beautiful, beautiful morning right around the Premier County. 1800 938 007, that's our free phone number if you want to call us, and Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, Deputy Seamus Healy will join us shortly. The debate on whether cash is still king continues on. Bernie Goldbach brings us the latest developments from the Middle East. One of our regular contributors is unhappy with the Pope's meeting with the Taoiseach. We'll tease that out. We'll discuss how to keep your devices secure and take a look at the controversial issue of the so-called dodgy boxes as well. Tipperary senior hurlers are facing criticism from anonymous online supporters. Dear Phil returns to tackle some of your questions and your concerns. And we'll also shine a spotlight on disability issues and indeed hear about the holy relics arriving in Toomevara. So all of that and much, much more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages now. It's Wednesday, so the local pages, the local papers even, are on your shelves. The Tipperary Star and the lead story on the front page of the Star: one more year of lateral works, and that's making reference to the €30 million scheme, is now 1/3 complete. Also on the front of the Star, Eamon Lacey pays tribute to the late Liz Howard, and the headline there is "Her greatest passion was Tipperary GAA." To the Nina Guardian, and they're leading with the story that a Nina woman was among the 400 pro-Palestinian activists who were detained by Israel after their Gaza-bound aid flotilla was intercepted in international waters last week. Also on the front of the Guardian, they're telling us that Gardaí are appealing for witness information following an alleged incident of violent disorder outside a Nina school in broad daylight. The Nationalist, and the lead story on the Nationalist: a 43-year-old man has been sentenced to 7 years jail, with the final 3 years suspended for 5 years at Clonmel Circuit Court for a spree of thefts of goods ranging from power tools to building materials worth thousands of euro from 7 premises in West Tipperary. Also on the Nationalist, Aileen Hassey has the piece that Clonmel gave a formal and celebratory welcome last Friday to President Catherine Connolly, who was awarded the Freedom of the Town during a ceremony in Clonmel Town Hall. And there's great photographs depicting the visit right throughout the Nationalist today as well. Let's go to the national newspapers then. The Irish Independent, and in fact just to point out that right across the national newspapers today, lovely sunny images of people eating ice cream and people enjoying the beautiful weather. But the lead story on the Indo today, concerns over protecting 250,000 Irish jobs in the tech sector influenced the Occupied Territories Bill, the Taoiseach has said. Now the Cabinet, as you probably know at this point, approved a bill restricting trade with Israel settlements, but IT and fintech sectors were not included in it, as Micheál Martin warned that such a move could trigger retaliation against multinationals here. The Irish Daily Mail, and a rather stark headline: "Pay your own way to stay," Ukrainians told. And that story: tens of thousands of Ukrainians receiving housing supports from the state will not be eligible to remain here under strict new rules. The Irish Times, and the main story on the Times today: opposition parties even, vowed to try to toughen the Occupied Territories bill, which targets Israeli imports produced from Palestinian lands when the government brings it to the Oireachtas in the coming weeks. Also reading on the Times today that the names of dozens of Defence Forces personnel, including those involved in intelligence work and sensitive counter-drug smuggling operations, are being published online by the European Union, triggering safety concerns, as you can imagine, among members there. And finally, the Irish Examiner, and definitely my favourite sunny photograph, is on the front of the Examiner today. It's a picture of little Vida El Buckley, enjoying the sunshine at Goat Island Beach in County Waterford. Just gorgeous, happy photograph there. The lead story on the Examiner: a Lithuanian man has been found guilty of directing organised crime in Cork by overseeing a systematic drug dealing operation around Fitzgerald's Park and indeed Lee Fields as well. And also on the Examiner, Ireland is certain to miss its European and domestic emissions reduction targets for 2030 by a distance, with just half of the state's 51% goal projected to be achieved. And that story that Paul brought you there as well on the front of the Examiner today. There were twice as many Gardaí as deportees on a government-chartered deportation flight to South Africa earlier on this year. That's a look at what's making headlines. Would you like to make comment on any of that? And if you would, 083 311 3311. I'm joined now by Deputy Seamus Healy. Good morning to you, Seamus.
Good morning, Fran. Good morning to your listeners.
Good to talk to you, Seamus, on this beautiful day. In a recent Dáil debate on defence and neutrality, you warned against any attempt to weaken Ireland's neutrality, Seamus, arguing that these principles are deeply rooted in the Constitution.
Correct, Fran. I did, and I've done that on a number of occasions, actually. But the idea of Irish neutrality actually goes back much further. It goes back to 1790 and Wolfe Tone. And it also then surfaced again in 1914 when James Connolly and Jim Larkin raised that banner on Liberty Hall, which says we serve neither king nor Kaiser but Ireland. And of course there was also significant protests against conscription during that period of time. And then, as you said, the 1937 Constitution, Section 29(1) of that Constitution, indicates very strongly that Ireland wants to see international difficulties concluded by way of negotiation and judicial termination. Of course, then we come forward a bit and you have Eamon de Valera's Declaration of Neutrality in 1939. And significantly then you have the Nice and the Lisbon treaties, both of which were defeated at first attempt. But when the triple lock was put into those treaties, they passed. So the Irish people, during referendums on both occasions, that's two occasions, have indicated very strongly that they're in favour of neutrality and in favour of the triple lock. And what I was doing on the occasion last week when I spoke was I was saying to directing my remarks really at Fianna Fáil and suggesting to Fianna Fáil that neutrality has been a long-standing policy of the party, and asking them, are they now going to throw that policy overboard? I also suggested that people like Eamon O'Queeve, Willie O'Dea, even Bertie Ahern have indicated recently that they're opposed to the abolition of the triple lock and in favour of Irish neutrality.
And the Taoiseach himself said at one stage, indeed, that the triple lock was at the centre of our neutrality.
Absolutely. 2013, he was in opposition, of course, at the time, but it was and still is the Fianna Fáil policy. But he said that the triple lock is the core of Irish neutrality, which, of course, it is. And I think certainly any attempt to change that situation, certainly at the very minimum, it should go to a referendum, because, as I've said already, on two previous referendums, the triple lock has been accepted as the basis of Irish neutrality by the Irish people.
What do you say, Seamus, to the old arguments? Getting a little bit tired at this point, I suppose, but how neutral have we been over the time? I mean, you mentioned Devil there. What about the Second World War? I mean, there's no doubt about us helping out the Brits where that is concerned. I mean, look at Shannon Airport, for example, and what we do for the Americans there. How neutral are we anyway?
Well, look, the fact of the matter is that successive governments have been chipping away at our neutrality over the years, and you rightly, commented there in relation to Shannon. and not just Shannon, but flights over the country flights as well. So there are significant reductions in our neutrality, and I'm of the opinion that part of the government policy in relation to neutrality is that over a period of time, by degrees, to reduce our neutrality and then to opt out of neutrality altogether, and that's why the triple lock is so important, and it's something that's going to come up very clearly now in the next number of months. And as I said, we live in a democracy, and the people of Ireland have spoken on 2 occasions by referendum by putting that triple lock into both the Nice and the Lisbon treaties. I think that must be respected. It's the view of the Irish people, and at the very least, if neutrality is going to be changed, if the triple lock is going to be changed, then we must have a referendum on that issue. And I believe if anything, any law is passed here in the Oireachtas which changes that triple lock, I believe that will be contested in the Supreme Court.
And what do you say to their argument around the UN mandate, then effectively giving permanent members of the UN Security Council, including Russia and China, of course, a veto over Irish foreign policy? And that seems to be at the core of Micheál Martin's argument anyway. What do you make of that, Seamus?
Well, I think that's a frivolous argument, really. There's 2 methods whereby the United Nations can authorise peacekeeping missions. First of all, it can be done through the Security Council, but it also can be done through the General Assembly. And it's important to remember that there has been no veto on peacekeeping at the Security Council. It's in my memory, actually, until recently, when the veto was by the United States, which now means that our defence forces in the Lebanon will have to come home at the end of this year. So there are options available in the United Nations that don't include the veto. And as I said, even in that case, the veto hasn't been used in recent years at all. So, I believe, as I said, that there is a move to gradually downgrade and reduce our neutrality. The triple lock will be the final step in relation to that, and that needs to be addressed by way of referendum. I don't think the United Nations argument is a real argument at all. It's simply a frivolous argument that's been brought about now by the current government.
And you're right. In any polls where this is looked at, it does appear the majority of Irish people, by a long shot, are concerned that we may lose neutrality and sovereignty in some way like that. It is interesting, however, that when you listen to national media and when it gets to panel discussions on this, it appears as if we're foolish and we're backward thinking by wanting to clasp our neutrality to our breasts. What do you say to that? Is that your impression, or is it just mine?
No, I think you're quite right. I think that is the narrative that's been put out there, and it's been put out consistently over the last number of years. There's no doubt that there is a culture being developed at official level which wants us to become involved in other defence arrangements with the EU and possibly even NATO. And that, I suppose the public are being softened up by these various narratives that we are hearing over the last while. But what I'm in favour of, and what people who are in favour of neutrality is, we're in favour of active neutrality. The fact of the matter is that Ireland has always been seen internationally as an independent nation with a neutral stance stance. It's acceptable right across the board in relation to difficulties that arise internationally. Our peacekeeping forces are known far and wide since 1958. We do an absolutely excellent job under very difficult circumstances. So what I want to see and what we want to see is an active neutrality pursuing the solution to international difficulties by way of negotiation and judicial determination.
Are we picking and choosing though, Seamus? Because I know you would support the help that we've given to Ukraine, for example. But even that in itself, is that not sort of putting ourselves out there and us taking sides in some way?
Well, the Ukraine situation is a difficult one, I suppose. But what I support is the aid. The EU has given something like 90 billion euros to Ukraine recently. Now, unfortunately, the vast majority of that is for military aid.
Yes.
About 30 million of it, or 30 billion rather.
And we supported. We supported that as a country. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't have a difficulty in supporting that 30 million, but I certainly have a serious difficulty in supporting the 60 billion, which is going for military aid. And I think again that is part and parcel of that gradual direction towards undermining our neutrality, and it will undermine our standing both at the United Nations and internationally, and it will undermine the...
Right, but you do take my point, Seamus, that we're not neutral in Ukraine.
Well, we certainly should be militarily neutral in Ukraine.
But we're not really,
however,
though, are we?
Well, my fear is that we're not, and that, as I say, this is part of that gradual movement towards totally undermining our neutrality. It's part of the military bloc in the EU. It's probably part of a move towards involvement, maybe not formally, but in some degree with NATO. So, as I said, the whole culture and the whole narrative now coming from government circles and from official circles is that we should move away from neutrality. I disagree fundamentally with that. I think the Irish people disagree fundamentally with it. And as I've said, they've said that in 2 referendums. And the declarations in relation to the triple lock have been included as solemn declarations in those treaties. So my belief is that if anything contrary to that happens, that will be challenged in the Supreme Court, and I believe a referendum should be held to decide on our neutrality once and for all, and that neutrality should be put into our Constitution formally.
The 2 recent by-elections, Seamus, in Dublin Central and Galway West, the result there, I'd love your take on this, because if we take Dublin Central, for example, Paschal Donoghue's seat went to a left-leaning candidate. Then in Galway, you had Catherine Connolly's seat there going to a Fine Gael candidate. It's all very odd, isn't it? Yeah, well, yes and no, Fran, I suppose. Look, by-elections are significantly different than general elections. And name recognition is hugely important in by-elections, hugely important. So in the case of Galway West, Sean Coyne was a previous TD. He just lost out very narrowly in the last occasion. He's a current senator. He's from the Connemara area. He's an Irish-speaking. He's an Irish-speaking public representative. He's very high profile, and he has serious name recognition. And I think that was a key in relation to that. Similarly, but the runner-up then there, Noel Thomas, wasn't it? Of Independent Ireland, a right-leaning party.
Yeah, Noel Thomas had significant name recognition as well, because again he lost out narrowly in the last general election as well. It does show, of course, a very significant difference, and two very different points of view, and that's something that needs to be looked at going forward in elections. And you had a similar breakdown in Dublin North Central, where the Noel Thomas vote went to Malachy Steenson and Gerard Hutch, where they got about 20% of the vote as well, which might indicate that they might take a seat in the next general election. But again, Daniel Ellis was from the area. He was very well known. He was a former Premier League footballer with both Bohemians and Shelbourne. And as I say, he had significant name recognition. And, I think as well of my own situation way back in 2000, when I won a by-election. I had just lost out narrowly in the previous general election in 1997. And of course, I had stood in a number of elections, general elections prior to that. So again, at that stage, I had significant name recognition, and also the fact that I had lost out narrowly enough in the previous election. So, as I say, I wouldn't overanalyze by-elections, but it certainly sends out messages both to both in the left-right divide in the country, and also messages for Fianna Fáil and indeed for Sinn Féin.
And what about Sinn Féin? Because Holly Cairns came out and she said that, I'm paraphrasing her now, but basically they were trying to sit on the political fence in some way. There's no doubt that there's a weakening of their momentum in some way. What do you make of what she said there, that that they're giving dual messages out to people?
Well, it's very difficult. As I said, by-elections are very different than general elections, so it's, you can't generalise. But definitely, there seems to be a slowdown in the Sinn Féin vote. And the other worrying feature from, I suppose, the Sinn Féin point of view is the pattern of transfers from other left-wing parties like, say, Social Democrats, the Labour Party, People Before Profit, and there may well be serious difficulties into the future unless they're addressed. But as I say, it's very difficult to generalise, and it's very easy to overanalyse by-elections. So I wouldn't give too much recognition to what happened in the recent by-elections. As I said, name recognition and profile is very important in by-elections.
Can I just ask you before I let you go about President Catherine Connolly, because she travelled, of course, here last Friday, to receive the freedom of the borough of Clonmel. Now, I was looking at some of the photographs of it. It appeared to be a great occasion, but there was quite a lot of negativity about it, even from people who were supportive and voted for Catherine Connolly, indeed. Did you get that sense, Seamus?
Well, I didn't, Fran, because I looked at social media for obviously over the period, and certainly there were some negative comments, but there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of likes and of positive comments. I think I was delighted to see the President come to Clonmel. I think it was an acknowledgement of the town. It lifted the profile of the town and to send out a very positive message to the town. And of course, it also acknowledged the fact that the President had got 3 out of every 4 votes in the town of Clonmel. And I was delighted also to see that she visited not just the town hall and accepted the freedom of the borough, but that she visited the resource centre in Kingham Street, met the various organisations based there, and took time out to talk to and to, in fact, play with children who attend the after school there. I think it was a very significant occasion for the town, and as I said, it sent out a very positive message, and I think, sometimes, small things like that have very significant effects when decisions are being made at national level. Now, of course, the President doesn't have any executive functions, nor, of course, did any of the other 5 presidents, Michael D. Higgins, Mary McAleese, Mary Robinson, Sean T. O'Kelly and Eamon de Valera. Neither did they have when they accepted the freedom of the borough. So obviously she doesn't have any direct impact on decisions made in relation to the town. But I think the fact that she's acknowledged the town and sent out that positive message is very good for the town into the future.
All right. Seamus, good to talk to you today, and thank you for your time. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Deputy Seamus Healy speaking to us this morning. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, last week on the programme, the Assistant PRO for the West GAA Board, John O'Shea, he joined Stephen on the show after it was announced that the board have now implemented a cashless policy at their matches. Now, huge reaction on the show. Many listeners posing the question, is cash still king? Well, Sheila was in touch with us and joins us now. Good morning to you, Sheila.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, Sheila. Lovely to talk to you today. You are a great believer in cash, I gather. Are you, Sheila?
I am, and I think it's been sneaked in that we go to the card only. I was just thinking, when we were kids, when you got your first job, and even when we were much younger, show my age now, you were paid by cash in a brown envelope, and you understood the value of cash. Yeah. Now kids haven't a clue the value of cash. We were trying to say, when I was a child, again, show my age, 50 pence could buy you so much. I said it to my 10-year-old, and she looked at me as if, what? She just didn't get it, because they're not being taught the value of money, because it's all tap, tap, tap. Just taken away from. And then as well, it's just the older people who it's been forced on, like the internet banking was forced on older people. They're used to budgeting their money in a certain way, and I see it with my mum now. Mum has dementia. She can't always understand the bank, online banking. And it just makes no sense to take that away now. We need to have a bit of privacy as well.
Do you think, Sheila, not at all, Sheila, it's great to hear somebody who's very passionate about something as you are, but you do believe then that this is a very much a deliberate policy, and therefore is it inevitable? Is the genie out of the bottle on this, do you think?
Well, I hope not. I hope people will say no, because I noticed myself even doing it, just using the card. But I plan to take my money out every dime and just have my savings in the bank and have my cash. I can understand sometimes at major events, like certain things should be either pre-bought, like the tickets, so there's not all that money there. Yeah. But drinks, anything that's being bought there, merchandise, should be a cash option. There should be a cash option. It's not fair.
And what do you mean when you talk about the horrid, I love the word, by the way, the horrid machines? Are you talking about the self-service machines, is that?
I hate those.
I hate them too.
Machines.
Well, I always fail miserably with them, because I end up having to get a staff member to come over and help me anyway. So
I always talk to them and they don't talk back, and it's like, what? There's no point in going shopping if you can't have a bit of a conversation with the girls.
Yeah.
And they're taking the jobs again of the young teenagers who are going to college now, because they might have it for now in policy that the girls and boys who have to start a job there, that they have to stay there, but they don't have to employ any more people. It happens in a shopping casserole.
Like yourself, I like to use cash, and I mostly use cash. But you know what annoys me now is these new cash registers. When you give them, even if the note is even slightly crumpled, you're standing there while they're trying to force it into the machine. And
yeah, it's not. Or I put it in the wrong place.
Yeah, so
I would be used to using them machines.
But I mean, you can't help but go along with what you're saying then. Is all of this to sort of, make it awkward for us to use cash, that we'd give up on it?
I do, and I think also it's to put in a barrier between human contact. I know this sounds really silly, it may be a conspiracy theory, but it's not. You see it, people don't talk like they used to.
Yeah.
You can't have the chat at the checkouts. People can't get back cash. I always found that was the time if you talk to the customers. But that's been taken away when you're using a machine, or when you have to tap for going in and tap. You're taking human contact away. And for me, that's important. How can we talk about what's going on in the world if we don't talk to each other?
Well, that's for sure. I really feel sorry for the older people who have been so loyal to the GAA over decades, and then they're confronted with a situation where they have to go digital in some way, and it's alien to them,
Yeah, no, completely. And then some of them gentlemen and women would be in their 80s, some of them even in their 90s, and they're only used to cash.
Yeah. And they have to get somebody else to help them then, which their privacy then. Where is their privacy at that point,
Yeah, their privacy and their self-confidence. Taking someone's independence away is the biggest thing that you can do, and that's what you're doing when you do that to them. You're taking their independence, because they've always used cash. They know what they're doing. They can go on. They don't even have to say to anyone, I'm just going off to the match. They can do it. But now they're going to have to ask for help. And that's especially, I think, for men and women, it would be embarrassing.
Will you hang on to the bitter end with cash, Sheila? Will you?
I think I will. I think definitely. I think the more I'm thinking about it, the more even like my children, I want to teach them the value of money. If you send the kids out, they go out now. My 10-year-old sometimes goes into town with her friends, and she'd text me. I tell her, there's €10. You've got no more than €10. And she'd text me half an hour later, Mum, can I have another tenner, please? And it's so easy to just to give her that other tenner. So she have no value. Whereas when we got a fiver, if we were lucky, that's what we had. And we had no way of asking either for more. We didn't have the mobile phone.
I find myself, though, even if I'm in a situation where I don't have cash and I start tapping, I always underestimate how much I've spent, Sheila.
Oh, completely. 100%. That's another reason it's good to take the cash out. And you know what you've got in your purse. You know what you've got left.
Yeah.
I think my new strategy now is to take what I need for the week, leave the card at home, and what I haven't got, I'll go without.
Well, it's a very good policy and very good advice indeed. Sheila, you look after yourself and enjoy the sunshine, won't you?
You too, Fran. Thank you for having me.
Oh, a pleasure, Sheila. A pleasure. Thank you. 083 311 3311. Back in a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip today on 1800 938 007.
And you're very welcome back. Now, the US-Israel-Iran conflict remains at a rather delicate crossroads as military action and diplomacy unfold simultaneously right across the region. Great friend to the show over many years now, AI researcher, former US Air Force pilot and Pentagon analyst Bernie Goldbach is with me in studio. Good morning to you, Bernie, and good to see you today. We were just talking there off air. And Mr. Trumpy, he needs an off-ramp now, the so-called off-ramp. I can't see what that off-ramp is going to be at this point.
I think the biggest problem is he didn't actually expect to have a delay, lingering campaign against a type of adversary he's never encountered. I mean, you can't be just a real estate developer or a property tycoon and expect your talent making deals in that realm work with religious zealots and fundamentalists. I think he got caught out failing to read the room, and then also with the euphoria of quickly being able to go into Venezuela, pull somebody out, put him in a Brooklyn jail, and call that a success. So he's out of his depth perhaps, and now he needs an on-ramp, and it's going to be a difficult one to get that satisfies what he thinks should be a proper outcome.
It's interesting, but I mean, if he views victory as the opening up of the Straits of Hormuz, for example, Bernie, I mean, sure, that was open before they started, so...
Yeah, and now Iran's claiming, listen, we're going to protect that, and so we're going to exact fees from people.
Tolls on this, yeah.
Well, they also want money to repair their country from the bombing and the deaths that have happened in their country. So, there's a financial crunch that Trump would understand. But to give Iran the sanctioned assets, the money that's been locked up in escrow, would also allow them to fund Houthi and Hezbollah and any other insurgency anywhere in the world. So he's in a real quandary here.
And part of that quandary has to be people questioning now whether or not it's a better or worse deal than Barack Obama's deal in 2015, which he was so critical of.
Yeah, well, and he always presents it as, Barack Hussein, Obama. The international committees that vetted that deal, the inspectors, for example, and the Security Council oversight was massive, and it took years to get that happening. So then he undid it by a quick bombing campaign and then this adversarial relationships he has with the regime. So it's going to be tough. That's probably where things are going to have to return to, because I don't think he's going to extract that enriched uranium from underneath the granite rocks and where it sits. I don't think he's going to get his hands on that. So then it's a matter of, can you get a promise out of the Iranians? And the best way to get the promise out of them is for them to work with an inspection team to agree on the protocols. Protocols were well laid out. That's the kind of thing I used to help negotiate with the on-site inspection agency. And they did the intermediate nuclear forces in Germany and Italy and UK with the Russians in other areas of Eastern Europe when they had intermediate range missiles. Took years to get that protocol set up, and then the inspections happening, and that was occurring before. I don't know why. I don't understand why he tore that up. I mean, I think he wanted all their nukes out, and that was never going to be a thing that's easy to accomplish. So now we're sitting at this impasse with a lot of deaths, a lot of money spent, a depleted precision munitions inventory of the U.S., a need for $350 billion top-up in the defense budget. I mean, what a hole. And then all the Americans are saying, what's this doing for my cost of living?
Yes, of course.
And this is the summer holiday season coming up, and I have cousins that simply cannot travel to the beaches of California or to the resorts that are down in Florida that cause the cost of fuel, because America's so big, and people normally go in their cars to do it, it's like 30% more expensive. And everything is. Food is, too, as well.
And all of this, of course, will play into the midterms then.
Yeah. He's got an exact expiration date for trying to clean up Iran before people remember the pain of what they've been put through. I mean, just the opposite's happening now, where a lot of people who would have been independents, we're talking blacks or, Gen Zs or Hispanics, they're coming out in some of these primary elections in greater numbers. Typically, an independent wouldn't vote in a midterm. They'll go for the big ticket. But now they're upset. And when people are upset, it would take a year to dampen down some of the pain they felt. I mean, people have given up things. I mean, Sheila was on the phone saying, money in my pocket so I can see what I have to spend. There's a lot of Americans where I grew up thinking, I don't have enough money to fill the car back up, as well as to get the hamburgers for the barbecue for the Memorial Day. So they're going for the half tank of fuel and maybe smaller burgers and maybe no buns. I mean, it's real simple discussions they have because everything's going up in price.
Would you explain to us this redistricting? Is that what it's called? Where they're trying to change the maps, the electrical maps.
So when Seamus Healy was talking to you, could you imagine if Seamus was told by the government of Ireland, okay, your electoral district for the campaigners at the Tipperary TDs in the south will extend now to part of County Clare. And what they're deciding is, all right, we know where Seamus got his votes, and they went in South Tipp, so now we're going to cut South Tipp out of his constituency and make him have to work Nina and North. So just removing like the typical county lines and just making these ribbons. I mean, Ryan O'Mara has that same thing. He's got to represent part of Kilkenny.
Yes.
And there's plenty of conniptions. I mean, I remember listening to Alan Kelly saying, "My God, I gotta do the hustings now in parts where they don't know me. They never seen my posters."
Yes, and of course in the past we would have had Limerick in the area.
Right.
As well.
So what they've done in America, they figured, okay, can we unseat somebody that took a tremendous amount of popular votes from a certain area by simply removing that street, that township, that borderline, and redefine that person in that congressional district in this other strip of land that's still within the confines of the state. It's a bit unfair. So they tried to zero out a guy, Jim Clyburn, who's a very popular, articulate black legislator. And he said, "You realize what you're doing here, guys? You're cutting out the votes I would have normally got from other Tennesseans. You're eliminating the black vote." But people in South Carolina, the Senate in South Carolina said, wait a minute, if we redistrict like Trump wants us to do, we're going to put more Democrats in typical easy win constituency areas, which could affect the vote there. And now they're upset as well, the independents and the Democrats. We may lose those seats. So the Senate in South Carolina said, "No, thank you, Mr. President. We're not redistricting." And I think it was another court.
Is it anti-constitutional, is it?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's apparently not. The Supreme Court said you can.
What?
Okay. You can redistrict because that's what you're allowed to do. Can't be an artificial quota based on gender, based on race, yada, yada. So the Supreme Court said, open up the dam and let stuff flow. And then California said, well, thank you very much. We're redistricting. We're going to give 5 more Democratic seats. And New York's doing the same thing. So sometimes their local Supreme Courts, state Supreme Courts say, nope, can't do that. And so that happened in Alabama. Alabama said, sorry, lads, you can't redistrict like this. So the state Supreme Court said, no, you can't. So Trump's getting some blowback from both traditional Republicans saying that's not in our good, this will not help us out to redistrict. And also from some states, Supreme Court that's saying, wait, according to our understanding of constitutional law affecting us, the Commonwealth of Virginia or the state of Alabama, but in the case of Commonwealth of Virginia, they said, no, you can't redistrict and make it more democratic. So he's unleashed a lot of discussion about what it means to vote your conscience with your politician in your area. The bigger things are about to happen, though, behind the scenes for him. There's an undercurrent that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't willing to support to make all electronic voting machines dangerous to national security. Talk about chaos.
Yeah, but she's gone now.
Yeah. But Trump wants to declare Dominion Systems a threat to national security. That's the electronic voting machines used by a lot of states. He also wants to put ICE patrols on the queues for voters. Make sure there's no unruly behavior. Wants to make sure there's a guillotine on the operational hours of the poll. So even if you're there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you can't get through the door until 7:01 in the evening, you can't vote because the door's shut, even though you're in the queue. All those things are happening behind the scenes. He's expecting a really strong turnout by voters in the midterms, and there'll be all these interesting little twists and turns.
Yes. Now, it is important to point out the Democrats over the years have tried to alter maps as well, haven't they?
Yeah. It's a strange political tactic, which should be through legislation made illegal. But I mean, be above that. If several more states went to proportional representation, like in Ireland, this thing would be moot. The argument would go away because your second and third votes really count. Your transfers could elect somebody, not on first count. Now, that's not the American way because you play a football match. It goes for 3 hours and it's done. There's no overtime unless it's in a major competition. That's what Americans want, you know? I'm
kind of fascinated about what's happening in Texas as well. That's a whole drama, isn't it?
It's opened up under law a $100 million campaign fund that'll be used by the Republicans to try to ensure that Paxton is elected. The guy's got toxic waste as part of his life, okay? Big problems.
Yeah. But huge loyalty to Trump.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's up against a very fresh-faced, very articulate James Tallarico. It will really be interesting to see how that plays out because the Democrats will say, well, we'll match your $100 million and see what happens. And on top of that, there are people where I used to room with in college that are on the border. So they're borderline, lived on the border. They have Mexican, American, Hispanic grandparents. And some of them are a bit upset, about what's happened to cost of living and stuff. They're happy that the wall's being built. But their day-to-day life is being squeezed. So there's some people in Texas that would traditionally be really ruby red Republican that are having cost of living, daily life issues. They're not hardcore MAGA. Anything Trump wants, will give it to them. They can actually see beyond the bubble when they're pumping up their fuel in their tank or when they're buying things at the corner shop. And they're saying, oh, wait a minute, I didn't vote for this. Can we reverse this, please? And so they'll vote for reversal.
Interesting. And did I read the Democrat candidate, a very strong Christian background?
Oh, yeah. So it's all, everything's perfect for someone who's...
Isn't it just?
Everybody who really was never pure MAGA. He's not... There's a cult running with Trump. you got to realize that, because people respond to things like derangement syndrome, fake news, Democrats. They respond to whole as words, and they resonate well in their minds, and that's how they think. And I have brothers that are like that and cousins that are like that. And there's, moments you start laying out, look, can't you feel the pain? Yeah, but the pain's worth it. I said, yeah, but you're not able to do a holiday this summer. That's worth it. Well, I didn't say that. We've got to do the holiday somehow. We'll just go we'll cross the state line and go visit somebody in Missouri. All right. But they'll put up with it. But most people there's only 30% of Americans are hardcore cultists to the Trump camp. And you're not going to change them. They're entitled to their opinion.
It's interesting. And just finally, can I ask you about the positioning of Rubio and Vance, for example? It seems to me that in relatively recent times, Vance was sort of getting pushed maybe to the background a little bit, and Rubio was to the fore. Is that the case? And what do you read into that?
Well, vice president's always going to take hits because it's just such a token position. Rubio has at least 3 briefs he's responsible for, and he's pretty articulate. So, I think in terms of professional renown, Rubio has come out ahead of actually pushing the boat down the river without any kind of major collapse. Vance seems to be caught in the middle. The Pope's telling him, hey, get real. He's going to put another book out. I think it's called Communion.
Yeah.
Oh, God. He's going to appeal to the hardcore, but then you have this bigger centrist population that Rubio does appeal to. That'll be an interesting battle. I'm sure it'd be a lovely 2028 campaign if Rubio is competing against somebody that the Democrats bring up. I'd love to see him debating against Buttigieg, for example. But we'll see.
Yeah, he's extremely articulate, isn't he? Extremely articulate, indeed. I feel sorry for the newspapers, finally, because how do you keep up with this? You just can't keep up with it, can you?
No, Fran, you just let... that's a trade secret. We should talk about that on air another time. I use some AI for it. It tells me on my phone, you got to read this. And then if I say, swipe it, it'll keep coming back. You got to read this. Because I've told my phone, look, there's some things I want to read by the name of a person normally or by the keyword. So they just blow up, they vibrate on my phone, and it ends up being something from something I've paid to subscribe to or someone that I trusted for more than 3 years. And I know that sometimes they're wrong, but still they're pretty fun to watch and read.
That's fantastic. I didn't realize that. So it will almost insist, because of your history and your interaction, it will insist that you read it.
You got to set it up that way, but it's not hard to do. But yes, and the key thing is this: I had certain trust agents, and I put my trust in them interrupting me when something comes up that I ought to see. Like right now, I'm also following Kimi Antonelli. 19-year-old Formula One who's got attitude, kind of fury, Italian, who's coming up against a staunch Austrian, and just, comes out on Formula One weekend when you hear the Toto Wolff saying, no, we talk about this when you get back in. Just drive.
I love it. It's great to see you as always. Thanks so much, Bernie. Thank you for coming into us. That's
Bye,
our
friend.
good friend, Bernie Goldbach there. News and information is coming up.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Paul, and welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. Now, on the programme yesterday, we spoke to Angela about how her late son's grave was desecrated and the flowers and shrubs were stolen from it, and it was just a heartbreaking conversation, but a wonderful conversation too, because Angela was so eloquent. But anyway, she got back to it and she was very complimentary to us, and she was thankful about how we dealt with the interview yesterday. But she wants to say hello to her mum, Phil Lanphier. And Phil turned 90 years young on May 13th. And seemingly she's a big fan of the show and she enjoys the music as well. And Angela goes on to tell us that she's just an amazing woman. And Angela says we love her very much. She is our inspiration. Wait till you hear this. She's mother to 10 girls and 1 boy. Lots of grandchildren and great grandchildren, and Mom could say the exact number, unlike me, says Angela. So it's a lovely Phil. Can we say belated happy birthday to you, Dote, and thank you indeed for being part of the Tip Today family and all of that, and thanks to Angela as well for that wonderful interview yesterday. Morris was on to us following my conversation there with Bernie Goldbach, and he says, Fran, the Yanks are better off without the burgers. Obesity is massive in the States. We're not too far behind here, Morris, the way things are going, for sure. Somebody else says, Fran, it was nice to hear somebody talk sense about money. We need money to stay sane, and that's making reference to my conversation with Sheila earlier on. Somebody else saying the cashless society is being tiptoed in, but it's not illegal to make it impossible to pay with cash. No, you're right about that. I remember, was it last year at some stage or other, I looked into this because people were questioning whether or not it was legal to say in a shop that, you know, we don't accept cash. And seemingly, if they give proper notice and if they display a notice about this, it's okay to do that, whether you like it or not. Michael on, I think it's Michael anyway, and he says we must have a referendum. No, I beg your pardon. It is Barb onto us. He says, we must have a referendum on our neutrality. Under our constitution, Ireland is a republic and our politicians are elected to serve the interests of the Irish people. Micheál Martin and others who have the privilege of representing us should not make any changes to the triple lock without first asking the Irish people. I have serious concerns about Micheál Martin trying to look good internationally while handing more control over Ireland's neutrality to goodness knows who. He has involved Ireland in a war that is none of our business, and I believe that the Irish people have already gone above and beyond to help others. At some point, enough is enough, says Barbara to us today. Now, the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, who Barb was giving out about there, has said that Pope Leo is determined to try and move the world away from war following their meeting in the Vatican. Now, Micheál Martin and his wife Mary, they were greeted in the San Damaso courtyard on Friday morning before meeting the Pope in the Papal Library. But regular contributor to the show, John O'Donovan, is not happy. In fact, he's rather angry with the Pope, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, John.
Morning, Frank. How are you?
Good to talk to you today. Why are you angry with the Pope, John?
Well, I'm angry with Micheál Martin and I'm angry with the Pope. And the reason I'm angry with the Pope is because I don't know who does the research when the Pope is meeting people, ambassadors and leaders of the world. I mean, like Micheál Martin being the Prime Minister of Ireland. But he should be up to speed. Like, I mean, that Micheál Martin is a pro-abortionist. And he threw his weight in of the removal of the 8th Amendment and stood up in the Dáil and said it was okay to take the life of a 12-week-old child. He had no problem with that. And this guy's meeting the Pope. When I saw this on my TV screens, I nearly threw up with respect, because when I see this man over there dealing with the Vicar of Christ on earth, right, and being introduced to him and himself and his wife, I nearly got physically sick.
But what would you have the Pope do? Would you have him only deal with people who are of the Catholic ethos and dismiss everybody else? Is that what you would want him to do, John?
Well, I mean, you take a leaf out of Father Gabriel Buck. If you remember the case there a couple of years back with Colin Buck, the Cork TD, when he was at a funeral out in Whitechurch.
Oh, yes,
Father
I remember
Gabriel
that.
Buck
yes.
Wouldn't give him the communion because he said he was pro-abortion. That's the type of priest, the type of bishop, and the type of pope I want to see that follows the gospel right down to the letter, where the 5th commandment, thou shalt not kill. So if I had a choice of meeting somebody, as regards a leader of the Catholic Church or a priest or a bishop, I would rather sit down and have a cup of coffee with Gabriel Buck than I would with Pope Leo. If Pope Leo invited me to Rome, I wouldn't go. If Father Gabriel Buck invited me to his house, I would go.
But is there not a piece in the Bible as well about judge not for fear you might be judged yourself? I mean, you know, isn't that very relevant to the core of Catholicism?
I mean, like if you're going to follow the whole doctrine, the teachings of Christ, I mean, the Ten Commandments, the whole lot, I mean, thou shalt not kill. I mean, people that do kill are up in court on a daily basis. Yes, I mean, the man that's now the Prime Minister of this country, who tells us all and attends church. I don't know about a regular basis, but he does go to some services, right? Now, to me, like former David Martin, the Archbishop of Dublin, said before the vote that time for in 2018, that any politician, like I mean, that promoted abortion in any way, like should be excommunicated. That's the type of man I want to see. Like, don't be wishy-washy about it. Call it out as it is. Thou shalt not kill. And I don't want to see a pro-abortionist and his wife over in the Vatican representing me and my country.
Right, but I mean, there's precedent for this because, I mean, if you take the Catholic Church's teaching on homosexuality, for example, I mean, back in 2018, Pope Francis, he met the then Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, and he was introduced to his partner as well, and, you know, he was very hospitable to them and very sweet to them, and, I mean, so there's precedent for this.
There is, but I mean, at the same time, he met him, Varadkar, and his partner, right? But the church doesn't endorse like homosexuality. Like, there's no signs outside churches saying no gays, no lesbians must please don't attend. Everyone is welcome in the church. Only they just can't come out and endorse that lifestyle. Simple as that. But I mean, when you have a man representing my country, right, and he believes in no protection for the unborn, I mean, that's like, he shouldn't be, in my book, received into the bowls of the Vatican.
Right, but again, you see, the Pope has dual roles here because, you know, he is the executive of Vatican City. In other words, he's a head of state there as well. So not only head of the Catholic Church, but I mean, from a diplomatic point of view, he has to represent the Vatican City to world leaders, John. He
has, but his first, like, I mean, basically, like, I mean, whatever about being a form of ambassador, like, in meeting people from around the world and different ambassadors and different leaders, the whole lot. He first of all, I mean, he has to put the gospel first, the teachings of Jesus Christ, seeing that he's the vicar of Christ, standard of Christ. I mean, so his first priority, like, I mean, has to be the basic teachings of the church, not to be wishy-washy and all goody-goody, and we're open for business for everybody. There's no hassle, like, I mean, we're all the same. We're not all the same, and things are difficult. And if you're going to preach the gospel, you have to live by it.
But you see, your sort of conservative version of Catholicism would alienate an awful lot of people, John.
Well, you see, look, I mean, you either go, you either believe or you don't. And look, as I said, there's no signs outside churches barring any person of any gender or anything like that. Or that, look, if you didn't go to Mass for 20 years, you're not welcome now. There's none of that. All the churches are open, and as long as they're open, the doors closed in the evening, you can sit down there all day long and say, no one will tell you to leave because it's an open house. It's the house of God, right? And there's too much of this wishy-washiness now by a lot of bishops and a lot of people in this country at the moment. And just because there was horrific abuse, which there was, and modern baby homes and other stuff as well, that doesn't mean that you lose the gospel of the man that was crucified on a wooden cross, like, butchered all those years ago. Like, his message is the same today as it was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, where abortion is concerned, I mean, the people of Ireland spoke on that, and, you know, democratically spoke on that.
They did, but well, look, the result was what it was. I was disappointed with it, but I mean, that doesn't mean I have to accept it, like, because I can't accept abortion. I believe abortion is murder.
Right, I mean, but in fairness, by Pope Leo meeting Micheál Martin, it doesn't mean to say that he's endorsing every belief that Micheál Martin would have. You know, it's a diplomatic meeting, largely.
when the likes of a priest like Father Gabriel Buck, can have the moral courage to refuse at the altar is pro-abortion TD, right? Why can't the Pope at the other end of the spectrum?
I have to say to you, John, and I know you're probably a friend of his, but I thought that was so judgmental to do that. You know? I mean, who's to know what's really in somebody? Who's to know what's really in somebody's heart? You know.
Well, you see, he was outwardly. As regards the abortion, he gave his opinion. Goldbach, he threw his weight in behind the removal of the 8th Amendment, which removed all protection for the unborn. And the priest was perfectly right. When he saw this person at the altar, he was living his proper ministry by refusing Goldbach. And if Micheál Martin came up and the same priest as there, Father Gabriel Buck, he would refuse Micheál Martin as well.
Wow. You think he would refuse the Taoiseach of the country, the leader of this country?
I would think so. I don't think that there'd be any distinction between a TD and a Taoiseach when it comes to his belief. I mean that you don't endorse abortion.
You see, what you're looking for is a very fundamental church, John. And I'm always scared of things that are fundamental in some whatever religion.
Well, I suppose compared to other religions, that are in the news at the moment, who have Sharia law and stuff like that. Can be very brutal in the way they oppress women and everything. The Catholic Church, once maybe the women were kept down, but not anymore, and the doors of the churches are open to everybody. Doesn't matter what gender you are, that doesn't come into it. But you either accept it, that people like me, that you cannot be a practicing Catholic. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling everybody out front, that voted for abortion, they're on the blacklist as regards I'm concerned. They know, this whole system lately, there where you had Harry Kearns and others there, Drew Coppinger and these people, where they wanted to get rid of the 3 days waiting. They wanted abortion right up to birth because that's what they're pushing for, right? That's horrendous. And even the people that voted for abortion didn't want that. But unfortunately, which I had to remind of a lot of people, I had to say to them, we didn't vote for abortion on demand, we only voted for the special cases and the whole lot. And my rebuke back to them, Fran, is always the same, and is this: once you voted for to remove the 8th Amendment, you voted for open season on the unborn. And Micheál Martin, when he stood up...
Well, there are considerable restrictions there. It's not open season, John. That's...
Well, no, but that's what these people want. That's what the Holly Commons of this world want. That's what the Paul Murphys, the Will Coppingers, and Sinn Féin, of course, don't stop in Sinn Féin because they're a non-entity at the moment.
Well, I'm not sure about that. They still have considerable support in the country.
But they fail to get a season board by election. What does that say about their leader?
The fundamental attitude you have to the Catholic Church, it concerns me a little bit, particularly where women is concerned, because women have come out extremely badly of the Catholic Church over the years, even though they've been vital to it and to its continuation over many years.
I agree with you, because look, I said to you before we addressed the whole celibacy thing there, going back some time with you, and this Pope Leo, he has ruled out married priests, he has ruled out women priests straight away. So, to me, that's wrong, because we need...
Well, he did that because of the very conservative element of the church that are so powerful, and I guess you would be in agreement with that curia, that very conservative element.
I don't agree with banning just because you're of a gender, that you're a woman, that you can't become a priest. I believe celibacy is actually archaic at this stage. There's no young man going to give up a woman going to give up.
No, John, but now you're getting a la carte yourself now. Now you're choosing how you want it to be. Do you know what I mean? If I go along with your initial argument about the church teaching, and now you're saying to me, the teaching about women, but I don't agree with that.
No, I see no problem with women becoming priests, because the most high-profile woman in the whole story of Christianity, her name was Mary, and she brought Jesus into the world, right? So it took a woman to bring the whole message of Christ into this world, and her name was Mary, the Virgin Mary, right? So women are at the highest in the church, because you couldn't get any higher than that. Somebody gave the birth of Christ, and 2,000 years later, the message still goes on.
Right. But you want to change church teaching, though. around that.
Well, I see.
But you're picking and choosing, and I mean this with great respect to you, and I always enjoy talking to you, John, but you're picking and choosing what you want to change and what you don't want to change.
I think it would be a good thing, like, for the church to have women priests and to get rid of the celibacy, right? That would be a positive thing. But I mean, as regards, like, not speaking out, and, like, to me, all the politicians, like, going back to Dermot Martin, like, they should all have been excommunicated publicly. Like, this is like when Francis came for the Year of the Family in 2018. He never sent out a paper letter to all the parishes advising the Catholics and the congregation to vote against abortion. He never done that. So I had no time for that man whatsoever, like, after that. No time whatsoever.
And other than his meeting with Micheál Martin, have you any time for Pope Leo?
Well, look, we'll see how he gets on. He's not that long in the job yet. So
but you're not impressed so far, are you?
Well, I just don't like the idea of an abortionist being welcomed into the bowls of the Vatican.
No, to call him an abortion. Now, that language is rather incendiary, isn't it, to call him an abortionist?
Well, look, if you're a politician and you stand up in the door and say it is okay to take the life
right, but
of
he's not an abortionist, as...
No, well, he's pro-abortion. I mean, he's a pro-abortion Taoiseach. I mean, that's what I call him. I don't care whether people like me saying that or not. But that's how I read Micheál now. No, Fran, this is nothing I haven't said to the man's face. Like, I know many of these characters know. We've put tickets on his house below as regards this. Like, I've met him as late as last Christmas on the street.
And you know my feeling on that. I disagree with you going to somebody's house on that, John.
Well, I know that, yeah. But you must ask yourself, like, I mean, why are people doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, it's his family. You know, his family is not in public office. He is. So.
It is, but I mean, there's many families suffering. I mean, over the decisions that man is taking or not taking, and Harris and Varadkar before him. Like, I mean, they're affecting young Harvey, Morrison, Skerritt. They're like tortured to death by the state, like, on the backs of these politicians, and there's no dead and buried. You know what I mean? That little lad suffered terribly. Like, and he was let down by the state, and that's on the Martins, that's on the Harrises, that's on the Varadkars. That's not on me.
Somebody's saying you must have been a big fan of John Charles, were you?
I wasn't around that time.
Well, when you look back at of course, making reference to John Charles McQuaid there, who was so influential on De Valera and the like. But I mean, they're a very conservative band there indeed, and would... Yeah,
but you see, you must remember there were different times, Fran, as well. People are more enlightened now. I mean, you know, they see the church now, and I think they understand.
Right, but he would have been very hardline, a bit like yourself.
Well, yeah, but as I said, I mean, the times are different. I mean, like, if it's different, like, there's some places around, like, I mean, if you're going to be picking and choosing, like, there's religions. If you go to Afghanistan now, since the Yanks pulled out there, women's rights have gone back 1,000 years, and there's no Donald Trump going in, or there's no British Prime Minister Starmer going to save those women. Their lives are over.
All right, John, I'll leave it there, but great to talk to you as always, John. And thanks for your time. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's John O'Donovan speaking to us there. How do you feel about that? 1800 938 007. What about live and let live, says one of our listeners. Somebody else saying, what about treating others as you would like them to treat you? As I say, a lot of mentions of John Charles there. I'd say that man would be happy if they dug up McQuaid and made him Pope. Catherine says the Pope is not Christ's vicar on earth. The Holy Spirit is. Your Bible is quite clear. Come on now. No sitting on the fence, says Catherine. Tom in Templemore says, thanks, John. I agree with you. The life of the unborn is sacred and precious. Micheál Martin does not represent me. More people should wake up to how wrong this is. And it goes on. All right, let me take a break.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Matt O'Reilly is a cryptographic systems design specialist who has become a regular contributor to the show in recent months as the rapidly evolving world of cybersecurity continues to shape the digital landscape out there. And I'm delighted to say that Matt is joining me now. Good morning to you, Matt.
Good morning, Fran. Comes to Dr. Martin.
Garmina got Tom Gahanawa Fad. The sunshine out there is helping, that's for sure, Matt. You're going to talk to us today about keeping our devices secure. And I was reading some of the notes you gave us, and wow, I'm not doing any of this stuff, Matt, and I need to. You're going to start with rebooting the devices and how important that is.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So I was chatting with someone who specializes in finding exploits for nation states last year at the DEF CON conference in Las Vegas. And one of the things that he could not emphasize enough was that most of the attacks that come against mobile devices, including phones, tablets, even some laptops these days, are temporary in their nature. So the device manufacturers, the operating system designers have gotten very good at making certain that attacks don't survive a reboot. And so they are useful only within the time that the browser or the session remains open. And so one of the best ways that we know of right now to make certain that an attack does not continue if you do happen to come across a malicious site or a malicious text message or something along those lines is to reboot the phone. And so the advice that I was given back then, which at the time I was not following either, so you were in good company, is that every day, at least once a day, you should reboot your phone or your device. And that means shutting it completely down, so setting it into a powered off state and then restart it. And that will clear the memory, restart the operating system from scratch, and clear out whatever may have come in.
I can't remember when I last rebooted my phone, for example, Matt. So, cautionary tale and all of that. And logging out, that's very important as well. And again, this is something I don't do.
Yeah, and so whenever we're accustomed to opening a new tab or something along those lines when we're using a site like our bank website or Amazon or something along those lines. When you close a session, it does not necessarily wipe out the entire session. A lot of times for our convenience, it won't require us to log in again the next time, anything along those lines. And so instead, what we should do is when you are done, especially if you are borrowing a device or using a device that you don't normally use, make certain that when you are finishing your session, whether it be the bank, again, Amazon, any online system where you have signed in, the best practice is to actually sign out at the end of the session and force that the next time someone uses that device, they are required to sign back in again.
Very good. What about when we're browsing and using browsers? What should we keep in mind there?
So I generally do almost all of my browsing in an incognito mode. All major browsers these days have something, private mode, incognito. There's a different, every browser has their own word for it. But basically, it prevents a lot of the information from being persistent. And one of the things that companies like to do most is track you across the internet. And unless there is a specific reason that I need to have a session open over multiple days or multiple uses, I will go into and open that browser tab in the incognito mode or in the private mode to make certain that once I close it, all of the information that is written during that session is erased.
Now, you have a very scary part to your notes here. You're saying, and you're going to have to help me with this, accelerometers can be used to listen almost as effectively as microphones. Now, what is an accelerometer to begin with?
So the accelerometers are what measures motion in your device. And so all of our devices have very tiny little machines essentially in them that measure a deviation whenever there is a pressure applied to the device and whenever it is moved. And this is what allows us to do motion sensitive information. So if you're one of my favorite apps is called Sky Map, where you can actually point your phone at the sky and it will show you a celestial map of what the names of the constellations or the planets and things like that are. And so as you move your phone, it tracks where in the sky you are looking. And it uses those accelerometers to actually determine how far you have moved your phone, how fast you are moving it, and actually reposition it within that. Now, there have been a number of papers written over the years where attackers have come in and been able to use the micro accelerations, the micro movements that happen to your phone when there are sound waves present, to actually use them as a rather effective microphone, so that they can decode all of these tiny little movements as the phone is affected by in the same way that the microphone is affected by the air that I'm speaking out right now. The accelerometers do the same thing. And so it is possible to use accelerometers as a makeshift sort of microphone. And the scary thing about that is that within Apple devices, within Android devices, access to the accelerometer data is not a permission that can be granted or denied. And so any application can come in and access that. Even if you have the microphone turned off, you can still use the accelerometer data to act as a makeshift microphone and actually collect the information. And I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot more apps than we know about are doing that, because there's a growing pile of evidence to say that that a lot of these apps are listening even when the microphone has been disabled.
Speaking of spying on us, I'm a couch potato. I spend an awful lot of time in front of my smart TV. All smart TVs spy on you.
Yeah, and we had talked about this a little bit back in January, and I was not myself aware of the prevalence of this back then. And when we talked about how scary this is, it was so much worse when I went back and looked at it than I had originally understood myself. Apparently, it is common practice, so common that they even have a term for it within the industry, and it is called automated content recognition. And every single manufacturer of smart televisions actually takes a screenshot of the screen on a periodic basis, some as quickly as once every 2 seconds, some only once every 30 seconds or every minute. But from the research that I've done so far, every manufacturer out there does this, and it is regardless of what information is being displayed on the television. So even if you are using your television as a computer monitor for work or something along those lines, if you have a Word document up or an Excel spreadsheet or a sensitive website up, it will actually capture that information and automatically send it and upload it to the manufacturer for them to use in their processing. Now, they say that this is intended specifically for basically doing like what the old Nielsen ratings used to do, where they are determining who is watching what, and so they can track usage and things like that. But that also means that anything sensitive that is up on the screen will actually be transmitted, and they will know, based on your IP address, who you are, where you are, who's watching what, and I find that an incredible invasion of privacy. In my own practices here, when I am using any sort of quote unquote smart TV, I disable the television from access to the network whatsoever, and I will always use an external device such as a Roku or a Amazon Fire Stick or something along those lines to provide all of the smart content, so that the television itself is not able to send that information out. And we talked about earlier that Verizon got in major trouble for actually recording audio as well, and actually sending that information along. I haven't been able to find up-to-date information about which manufacturers, if any, are doing that, but it is still a possibility. So my particular strategy for this is disable all smart television features altogether, turn off the network, don't allow the television to talk back to its parent company and spy on you, and use an external device instead.
And that facility to mirror what's on your phone and put that up on the screen, I guess you'd really have to be careful of that, because that's real private stuff, isn't it? It really
is. There is, that's photographs of children, that is family photographs, all that. That can be a hugely sensitive area, and these televisions are doing this indiscriminately.
You don't want us to use WhatsApp, Telegram, or iMessage. Why?
So it's not that I don't want you to use it, but we should be aware of the risks when we are doing it. Telegram is known to be compromised by FSB, the Russian state agency, that is the equivalent of the NSA or FBI combined, sort of, in Russia. Any Telegram channel with more than, I think, 500,000 subscribers is required to register with the Russian government. So I consider Telegram to be an insecure platform by design. The WhatsApp is owned, of course, by Meta, and is the largest of the non-telecom messaging platforms within Europe, and certainly within Ireland. And it's something that I have to use, but it is there is a component of it where, even though the messages are what we call end-to-end encrypted, so they leave the device in a format that no one can read and arrive at the other device in a format that no one can read, before it reaches your eyes, Meta has decrypted it and is mining that for information about you. And I'm not a huge fan of that. The fellow who actually created WhatsApp and sold it to Facebook / Meta for $4 billion, immediately turned around and took 50 million of that and invested it into an open source program for doing the same sort of thing. And that is called Signal, or Signal Messenger. And within the industry, that is about the only freely available communications platform that has any semblance of actual security in it. Basically, WhatsApp actually uses the Signal protocol underneath it to communicate. And so I recommend that if you want to have a communication platform, and it does video, group chats, all of the features that you would expect from a modern communications platform, it has in spades. And it is the most as much as anything can be secure, it is the most secure platform, and it's the one that I rely on a daily basis.
I'm almost out of time, which is really, because so much more I'd love to talk to you about. But can you just fill us in on the dodgy boxes and how they work? Because at the moment people who might be using dodgy boxes are afraid that they might be found out in some way and they might be tracked in some way. Is that a reality?
I mean, insofar as what we've already talked about, it's a possibility. With the TV itself spying on you. Generally speaking, and I am not a solicitor. I do not speak with authority on this. But as far as I can determine, within Irish law, it is not illegal to consume a streaming service, even if that streaming service is not. Might be a little bit off the books. What happens normally to make these services work is that there will be someone who captures a live broadcast of some sort of content. And so let's say it's a Premier League football match, or it's a soccer match. And they will capture that and they will write that to a server in a third party, normally outside of the country where the laws are more lax. So we see a lot of these in India, Bangladesh, and things like that. And then they sell a box which then connects to that server in that third country that actually streams, that feeds a stream in to allow someone who is, within Ireland to be able to watch that. And so that's why they call them the dodgy box, because it's kind of dodgy. It's not necessarily illegal for someone to consume that content. It is certainly illegal under Irish law for someone to broadcast that content. And what we've seen recently is the High Court ruling that Sky was allowed to require Revolut to disclose a list of 300 or so users of that platform that were paying for the platform via Revolut. And so that identified them as consumers of this. And it is possible. Right now, we're seeing only that Sky is making threatening noises about it, but it is possible that Sky will try to come up with some novel legal theory to try to prosecute that. But they say that there are about 400,000 estimated dodgy box users in Ireland. And I really don't think... And please don't hang me by my toes if I'm wrong about this, but I really don't think that they are going to make an effort to go after all of those end consumers, because there isn't anything within the law right now that I can find that would allow them to do so and hold them liable.
Matt, it's always fascinating. It's always scary, but it's always fascinating indeed. Good, Matt, and thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you, friend.
Bye-bye.
Cheers,
Always a pleasure. That's Matt O'Reilly there. Matt is a cryptographic systems designed specialist indeed. What do you make of that? Does all of that surprise you? Will you give me some reaction to that on 083 311 3311?
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
Now, Tipperary boss Liam Cahill leapt to defend his players following last weekend's disappointing defeat. Now, they're getting a fair bit of criticism by a lot of platforms, especially nameless ones, which are easy to hide behind. He went on to say even some nameless platforms that use the Tipperary logo and use titles like Premier this and Tipperary that. Really, they're not Tipperary people. They're a joke, actually. He also went on to say, I'm really disappointed that our so-called own would revert to that kind of scrutiny of players that put their hand up to play for Tipperary. I'm joined now by our sports editor, Paul Carroll. Good morning to you, Paul.
Morning, Fran. How are things?
Things are very well indeed. Were you surprised at that outburst, Paul?
I was there at the time, Fran, when the interviews was being done post-match. Surprised, no. It's always, Liam has kind of mentioned it before, any time that kind of, not criticism, I think he completely accepts criticism, and he also accepts criticism towards himself, which he also said in that interview, but he has a problem when it's kind of personal stuff aimed at players, because I suppose he knows more than anyone what the players put in to reach these levels. As he also said in the interview, All Irelands don't come in lucky bags, as he put it. Like, those lads had to work tooth and nail to turn 2024 around and win the All Ireland in 2025. And this year it hasn't obviously gone to plan whatsoever. And Liam said in that interview himself that he'll accept all the criticism and that tough questions will have to be asked, and they'll be reviewing everything and reflecting back to see how they can improve. But I think when it's kind of personal stuff, and he did mention kind of nameless accounts, and that's always something that we see on social media, Fran. No matter if we put something up on Tipp FM or if I put something up, you'd see a nameless account might say something silly, and you kind of have to brush that off, because a lot of the times as well, I had a look before we were doing this piece, Fran, at just different posts we put up, different posts on different Tipperary supporters pages over the last 2 weeks, and clicked down through the comments, and I was kind of waiting for an eye out to see all these really negative comments, but there is an actually large cohort of Tipperary supporters who are really good, true supporters, and had loads of positive things to say. And then you would see like negative stuff and silly stuff, and like a lot of the times I clicked into it, Fran, it was people from different counties that are kind of infiltrating these Tipperary kind of spaces.
And what, just stirring it up, Paul? Is it just?
I'd say so, yeah.
But Paul, is this not sort of? Could this not have been predicted with the way punditry has gone, for example? It's all this sort of stuff that's out there now, and people trying to be more outrageous than the next, and more cruel, indeed, in an awful lot of ways as well.
Yeah, it's kind of sensationalism. It's kind of the way a lot of media has gone, that you kind of want the clicks, you want the ads, and like it's a weird thing as well. People will post things because they want to get a few likes, and whatever dopamine hit that gives them, that their comment got 10 likes or whatever, or someone replied and someone is, I'm after riling someone up, like, and that's just how some people put down their time. I think years ago, friend, these people weren't listened to because there was no social media, and if someone said something like that in face to face, you'd kind of just brush it aside or whatever. But the written text is it's different, like, and like, if you see something aimed at yourself written online like that, I'm sure the players and Liam Cahill and anyone would try and brush it off, but you still see it, like, and it still
of course
forces a reaction out of it.
And I mean, he makes the point that these players are amateur players. That's
Yeah.
not talking about their ability, it's talking about their status. And it's important to keep that in mind, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we get the run of ourselves, or lose the run of ourselves sometimes, because it kind of feels like if you're a supporter of like an English soccer team or whatever, and a player has a bad game, it's kind of almost free reign. You can nearly say whatever you like about them because they're on hundreds of thousands of pounds a week. But that's not the case with amateur hurlers, because they're back in work on Monday, maybe Monday off, and back in work Tuesday, and that's it. Life goes on, and like the commitment. I've always said that the commitment is just crazy for intercounty these days. Like I always say that these lads must love it, because you'd have to love it to put in the effort they do. And don't get me wrong, there's a huge amount of benefits of playing with a Tipperary, and God, what would you pay to have the experience those lads had on July 20th last year up in Croke Park, 80,000 people. That's what they train for ultimately, and that's not going to be the case this year.
And I realise that we may be playing into this in some way by what I'm going to say to you, but what did you make of what John Leahy, the great John Leahy, said to me the other day when I asked him about his thoughts about the defeat and indeed about the campaign in general? And he made a couple of interesting points. He said the people of Tipperary want 2 in a row, and he thought that maybe, and I hate to paraphrase him now because I don't have the exact wording, but he thought that the team had taken their foot off the pedal to some degree and weren't maybe totally committed to the 2 in a row. What do you make of that, Paul?
Yeah, similar kind of commentary was put to Liam Call after the Clare game, and he said that all the metrics that they have, the players all wear GPS systems now, friends, so you can measure how much they run, how quick they run, how many sprints they make in a game, and all this, and that all those statistics are the same relatively to what they were last year. So, it's the Munster Hurling Championship. There's no time to kind of build into it. It's all go from the start. And, who knows what could have happened if Kevin O'Mahony's goal for Waterford didn't hit the back of the net in injury time, and Tipperary would have had something to play for in at least the last 2 games. So it's such fine margins, and the players just didn't. It was like you could possibly say it's a term Ger Lucknan has used, and we've used it on air. Keane Tracy brought it to my attention first, but Ger Lucknan has mentioned the disease of success, and sometimes when you win, it does take away a little bit of that hunger, a little bit, and that's why it's so difficult to do a couple of All-Irelands in a row, and it's what makes this Limerick team that's around at the minute so impressive, because they've done it, albeit 2 of them weren't in the round robin, but most of them have been in the round robin era, which is so difficult to get through. Like even that great Kilkenny team, they had a relatively easy passage through Leinster a lot of the times, and then they're into an All-Ireland semi-final, whereas the Limerick team have to come through Munster each year, which is so difficult, and then to go on. So it's very difficult, Fran. But one thing I will say on the players is just, it's something I wanted to mention, is that how good they are after games when kids run onto the field. Like those Tip lads would have been, and I was in the tunnel long after the game waiting for Liam Cahill, and the players walking down the tunnel are just pure dejected, because they care more, but people mightn't believe it, but the players care more about it than they do, because of the effort they put in. And when they don't put that out onto a field, into the performance, there's serious dejection. But they stopped around with youngsters. My own nephew has pictures with the players after the game, and I just think that's unbelievable, because I know
I saw a
I'd be
lovely one with
absolutely
Jake Morris, where, as you say, even after the difficulties of the game and all that, he still made time for photographs and for fans and for,
Yeah, and just one thing, Fran, as well.
Yeah, sure.
Like the way we are geographically in the hurling world, we have Galway, we have Limerick, Clare, Cork, Waterford, Kilkenny, all around our borders, all the kind of hurling counties, and Offaly as well. I won't leave anyone out, but they'll all love seeing Tipperary have bad times, and it just kind of frustrates me at times when some of our own supporters are disparaging towards the team, because God, there's enough people outside the county giving out about us or having a go at us or sticking the knife in, that
of course, you
kind of need everyone in the county to.
I have some cheek to be talking to you about sport, but is there also an element of transition in terms of this team?
100%, Fran. I think if we look back on this period in Tipperary hurling in 20 years' time, you would say that, God, we had that brilliant team with the likes of Brendan Maher, Paddy Maher, Seamus Callan, Bonner Maher, all these lads that came from those great minor teams in the late noughties that carried on and played with Tipperary through the 2010s. and how good they were. And then there was a transition period. There was a new Munster round robin format that we've taken a while to adapt to. And then we won an All-Ireland kind of unexpectedly in 2025. And then, John, there's a transition period where all those players are kind of coming to the end now, and God, those players don't grow on trees. They have to be replaced. And we do seem to have nice young talent coming through, but that takes time. And a lot of people were saying, John, why didn't they play all the young lads against Tipperary or against Limerick on Sunday? But Liam made the point that it's not as easy as that. They're going up against the most physical team in Munster, and if you're not ready for that, then that's going to leave a lot of scar tissue. So it's time. There's hurlers in Tipperary. There's plenty of them, and it's just a matter of getting them up to the senior speed.
Well, if I were Liam Cahill and I saw him under pressure a few times, I'd be prone to use language that would not be parliamentary, shall we say. Before I let you go, and just really quickly, Paul, can I ask you about that other point we're discussing, which is the notion of that cashless policy, where the games are concerned and where the matches are concerned. What are you hearing about that, you being on the ground there, Paul?
Yeah, like I suppose it first became an issue a couple of years ago, and as these things kind of happened, they're a big issue at the time, and then people slowly move on or forget about it or get used to the new system. But it came to light recently then with West Tipperary GA changing it to cashless, and like I can see both sides. I can see from an administration point of view, very easy to count the money and make sure it is all there and all that sort of thing when it's tap and go, and you don't have to have people dealing with cash. But then from a supporter's point of view, particularly some of the elderly generation who mightn't have Revolut or whatever or cards or anything like that, it's very difficult. So you'd like to see like concessions made to certain people, but that's very easy to say. It mightn't be as easy to carry out. But I would certainly not be in favour of a completely cashless system, but that seems to be the way it's going, friend.
All right, well, Paul, we'll allow you to change jersey and get ready for news, but good to talk to you, Paul, and thanks you very much indeed for that. 1800 938 007. News is on the way.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Paul, and welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. Catherine was on. She said, could you give out the name of that secure account for chats, videos, etc. that Matt O'Reilly mentioned? Yeah, no problem. I think you're talking about Signal Messenger, which is a free app, and he was talking about using that instead of WhatsApp or Telegram or iMessage. I never heard of iMessage, and I definitely never used Telegram, so I don't know. But anyway, Signal Messenger, I think that's what you're looking for, Catherine. But my good friend Jackie Conboy was on to say, none of that surprised me, Fran. I've been using Signal since it came out. See? I never heard of it. Just goes to show you. I'm showing my age now.
For every problem, there's a solution. Dear Phil, on Tip Today with Phil Prendergast.
You'd be fierce techie, I'd say. Are you, Phil?
You must be joking. How do you turn on a light? Unbelievable.
But you have a good relationship with Alexa, have you?
I do. I tell Alexa I love her every so often, and she sings me a lovely song over it. And I think that's the height of posh.
What,
anyway.
What are we like? When you were down in Ballyregret all those years ago, if I told you could actually converse with a piece of technology in your...
Yeah. It's just that
wouldn't believe it, would
technology has come so far now, but it is true. Everything is now listening to us. Everything. I'm not talking about people that are out there now listening to the radio. I'm talking about technology.
Spying
our
us.
Phone.
Yeah.
Our iPads. Our computers. Everything is being heard in some way or another. And I just think it's gone so bizarre that it's actually... It could be worrying for people.
Well, I'm very worried about it. I know. I mean, there's no such a thing now as privacy, really.
There isn't, no, because...
And a lot of that is our own fault. We're putting stuff up there.
Well, it's not even that it's our own fault. It's just that technology has become so advanced now, and we have so many pieces of really highly technological stuff in our houses that we're gone so used to it, we don't think that any of our machines could be listening to us. They're listening all of the time.
Yeah. We're not paranoid, but...
No, that's not being paranoid. I mean, it's an actual fact.
I don't know. Let's go with our letters, Phil. The first letter, I'm writing because I think my attitude towards money is beginning to damage my relationship. My boyfriend is one of the most generous people I've ever met. He always is happy to treat me, buy thoughtful gifts or help others without a second thought. The problem is that I'm the complete opposite. I hate spending money. I'm constantly worrying about every euro that leaves my account. I know I can come across as mean or tight, and my boyfriend has started making comments about it. The truth is, I grew up in poverty, and money was always a source of fear and stress in my family. Even now, although I'm financially secure, I can't seem to shake the panic that if I spend freely, everything could disappear overnight. I love my boyfriend, and I don't want my anxieties around money to push him away, but I honestly don't know how to change the mindset I've carried since childhood.
Yeah, this is a bit of complexity. What I think
is it common among couples, though? Do you think?
I don't know, but if one part of the team is a very generous, outgoing person, and the other person has anxieties from our childhood of being poor. Now, I mean, we all grew up with being poor in our childhood.
For sure.
You know, you didn't seem to have a lot of money, but it wasn't an issue like it seems now.
Because everybody around us was in the same boat.
We all grew up in the street, and you were minded by the street for the day all during the summer, and that was the way things were. It was just one of those things. But I think it would be very good for this person if she sat down and did a kind of a spreadsheet and did all of her bills that she has weekly and monthly, and recurring bills that she has, that she knows when she has to pay them, and then see what she has left out of her salary or her payment, whatever it is, and see about siphoning off a little bit of money here and there, so that she actually amasses a kind of a something there that she can draw,
like a security pot. Yeah.
And she should also go in and talk to MABS, which is the Money Advice and Budgeting Service. They provide such a fantastic service. They will actually give you out a printed sheet about your outgoings, what you pay usually. I mean, people would maybe be going to the market, and I do this myself, go over to the supermarket, and I could be over there, and then I'd back home, and then say I forgot that, and I must go over again. I'd come back with two things, not one thing, and then I could go back over again, and then say I have to go to Woodie's now, and I pick up a bit of paint. Oh, I might do that now, and I might tip this up, and I might tip that up, and I'm there, and it's indiscriminate spending. Now, I don't tend to worry about it, but now and again I have to rein myself in and say, you know what, I have about 10 cans of paint. Did I really need another one? But look, I think she needs to do a spreadsheet. I think she needs to talk to MABS. I think once she gets her chat in with them, they will give her very, very good grounding in how to manage money and how to stop worrying about something from her past. She probably needs to do a tie cutting with her past now, Fran, because
don't we all, Phil?
Poverty, because poverty is a thing, and it does stay with you, and you can operate in this frugal sense. But her partner is now getting a little bit annoyed. So when that starts happening, it's time for her to go and analyse. And I do hope she's listening, just to go and call into MABS and get herself sorted in relation to this worry that she has.
But is what she's going through very different to somebody who is genuinely a mean person? Because I hate meanness, and I've come across it a lot over the years.
I hate meanness as well, but
this is different.
This is different.
It's anxiety around money.
The truth is, I grew up in poverty, and money was always a source of fear and stress in my family. This is what she says, and she says, even now, although I'm financially secure, I can't seem to shake the panic that if I spend freely, everything could disappear overnight. And this is an irrational thought, because this cannot happen. But if she puts it down on paper and sees what her outgoings are, and whether they're recurring or whether they're a one-off, or whether you have to go and now you have to buy shoes. Women always have to buy shoes, it's a thing. You just have to organise you just have to organise how you spend, what you spend on, what are necessary spends, what are, the ones where you go and see, oh God, that's a gorgeous top. Oh, haven't anything in that colour, I'm going to get that. And it's random.
You see, fellas don't get that kind of thing at all,
No, but you're immune entirely. I mean, well, you never come in naked, but there's a lot of times there's people there saying, you don't worry getting up in the morning, what will I wear today?
For God's sake.
Do you know?
Not, as I display here, do I put thought into it or what? It's interesting, but have you come across meanness though over the years?
Oh God, yeah. There, when you're in a group, and particularly in our nursing group, when we started our nurse training, it was amazing how we'd go out, and we used to go out, and the Cove was just below Arkeen Hospital, which is what it was at the time. Now we're all posh and all sorts, but we used to go out together, and there would be 2 in the group that would never approach the bar.
Well,
and what we used to try and do was the house across the road had 6 in it, and we had 4 in ours. There was one in ours that would never, ever buy a drink.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, but after a while you'd see it and you'd just say, you can get your own drink. You go and get your own drink now.
Isn't it a shame that you have to say that?
Yeah, but you know what? We were kind of young at the time, and we just thought, it's fine to call her out on this. Whereas, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't something that we were thinking about as being something that happens all the time, except that we noticed it was a very frequent event where she...
One I came across years ago was a guy was a vegetarian. I better not give too much information on who this is now. A guy was a vegetarian, supposedly.
No, there's loads of vegetarians in France, so you'll be all right.
I'll be careful. But when it came to a restaurant where somebody else was paying the bill, in a rather posh restaurant, and he knew somebody was paying the bill, he ordered a steak. So he was a meat-eating vegetarian. If somebody else was paying,
see, to me, that's just mean.
Yeah, I know. Embarrassing as well as everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, letter number 2. Dear Phil, I'm in my first year of college and I already feel completely out of place. I come from a very sheltered and religious background, and nothing could have prepared me for what student life is actually like. It seems that if you meet a boy for a drink, there's an immediate expectation that sex will follow, and I find that overwhelming and upsetting. I'm also shocked by how normal drug taking seems to be. People talk openly about it as casually, as if they were discussing what they had for dinner. I don't judge people for their choices, but I feel deeply uncomfortable around it all and increasingly isolated because I just don't fit in. Before anybody tells me to make friends, I honestly don't believe there is even one person here who shares my conservative values. The only thing I've ever been certain about is that I want to become a teacher. But lately, I'm wondering whether I can continue my studies when I feel so alienated from this culture that's around me.
You see, I think the important thing for this person is they have an idea of what they want to do, and they're also very conservative, which is quite okay. And there's no one going to judge them on that. Now, I mean, there's probably judgment going on all the time, Fran, with people when someone expresses an opinion that's so at variance with what your opinion is. But in this particular case, this person is there is a counselling service available to her, and she should go and talk with a counsellor. A counsellor is never going to say to her, do you know what, you should try the old sex there, just go and have that now or whatever. This person is conservative, and that's the way they are. She goes to her counsellor and has a few sessions, and it will take a few bits of therapy to stop her being so appalled that she's not getting involved in something that she clearly is not ready for. She's not emotionally ready for this.
Yeah.
So I would say that because she's conservative, that's absolutely fine. Nobody is going to judge you on being conservative. No one is going to judge you because you don't want to go on a first date.
Are you sure of that, Phil?
Fran, I honestly think going on a first... I know people have a very relaxed attitude to sex nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal for them at all. You mightn't even go on the date. You might just go straight to the car or the wood or the wherever.
Yes.
But that's not... what I'm trying to say is this person is conservative and wants to become a teacher. She should consciously go and do that. her life will change as she achieves more maturity. And it'll certainly change when she's in a group of people who all have the same idealism, i.e. they want to become a teacher. So she should just absolutely focus on that. If she's not ready to have a sexual relationship with someone, she only has to say, that's fine. If she finds it very, very challenging to go and have a relationship with a male without feeling pressured and all the rest of it, she's obviously able to say no, and she obviously is probably peeing off whatever fella she's with or whatever. But this is the way she is. She should just respect herself for what she is and not worry too much about it. Things will be fine.
Yeah, there's organisations within college as well. I would presume there's conservative organisations in
well,
in
they're
college
good now.
campuses
Some of those very conservative people would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
However, you know, respect where it's due. If somebody is providing a service, you'll know when you go to something like that within a college system where you go for whether it's counselling or whatever, or you just want to go and have a chat with a mentor, and there's always someone in the group even that is an appointed person that you can go to if there's an issue within your system.
And is there a chaplaincy
there
as well?
Would be as well.
Yeah.
Now, you see, again, that can frighten some people because they just think, well, they're very, very holy and all. Now, we know that maybe quite a lot of them might not be, but I'm not judging anyone here. I'm just saying that this is a thing. But anyway, she's wondering whether
there's some options there.
Yeah, but she's saying, I'm wondering whether I can continue my studies when I feel so alienated from the culture around her. And what she needs to do in this case is organise a couple of counselling sessions and go in and say how she's feeling. And they will have a whole plethora of things that will help her get through this time.
Yeah, is this going to scare the wits out of it? I mean, I'm just thinking of parents out there who might be sending off their loved ones in September to start college life, and they hear from this young lady that, you know, college is a...
But it's different things for different people, Fran. I can remember when we started nurse training, I don't think I was ever so excited in my whole life. I just thought it was...
The freedom of it.
I just loved it. I mean, we lived in a nurse's home. Like, we lived there for a year. One girl in the group of 29 of us, I think, had a car. She had a Datsun. It was height the posh. The rest of us were walking in and out of town. But sure, we were all like little slips of things running around the place. But very exciting. Great camaraderie. And there was a system in there, and if someone noted that somebody was struggling, they would just say, how did you get past that exam? I mean, I remember getting this. It sounds a bit boasty, and I don't mean it like that. But when we did our finals, I got honours in my finals. I was one of two, and they all said, "How did you do that?" Now I know how I did it.
Work.
It was work. But it was also when we were doing our exams, there was one thing where an elderly lady fell and fractured her hip.
Yes.
And she had to go to the hospital, and I had to discuss this. But the elderly lady had a cat. So if you didn't mention the cat, you would lose. So I had included the cat, and they arranged with the neighbour to come and feed the cat, and the cat knew that the neighbour was going to come, because I don't know how the cat knew that, but the cat told me. But do you know what I mean? So you had to kind of do things and embellish them a bit and make it more interesting. But it worked. It worked for me.
But they were all saying, how did you do that?
But how did you get that?
The only thing that worried me about that young woman is when she says, I feel alienated from the guy, is that she'd be lonely in some way. And I'd hate to...
Do you know what she says? There's a real lack of confidence with herself, in herself.
I think so too, yeah.
And that's what's the nub of this. It's not that she feels she's alienated. She's not ready for this leaping into the whole sex thing and all of that. Yeah. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. There's no timelines on this. And there will be a relaxation element to it at some size. And obviously, when she also meets the right person,
of course,
things are going to be different for her. Yes. And every month that goes by, she will become more mature.
All right, our final letter, Phil. Dear Phil, I'm writing because I feel trapped between fear and stubbornness, and I don't know whether I'm being brave or foolish anymore. For several months, I've had symptoms that strongly suggest a particular type of cancer, and in my heart, I'm almost certain that's what it is. Please don't tell me it could be nothing. I know my own body well enough to realise something is badly wrong. The problem is that I cannot bring myself to go to the doctor because I simply cannot face hearing the diagnosis spoken out loud. Worse still, even if it was confirmed, I honestly don't think I could go through treatment. The thought of hospitals, loss of dignity, being examined, weakened, pitied and turned into a patient horrifies me almost as much as the illness itself. If it were only about me, I think I would carry on in silence until physically I couldn't anymore. But I have a family, and lately I've started wondering whether my refusal to act is selfish, even though every instinct in me says to avoid it for as long as possible.
Her instinct is so wrong. I mean, if you think this person has no diagnosis, none, so everything is operating on what she thinks she has.
Even though she seems to be fairly certain, if it is a she
just says, I feel
certain.
trapped between fear and stubbornness, and I don't know whether I'm being brave or foolish. For several months I've had symptoms that strongly suggest a particular type of cancer, and in my heart I'm almost certain that's what it is. Please don't tell me it could be nothing. I know my own body well enough to realise something is badly wrong. Then she needs to go to her doctor. She needs to have a series of tests to outrule that something could be wrong. Those series of tests will be blood tests, so that's invasive to a point, but it's not. She will have to have some sort of an examination. So if she thinks that the cancer may be in her breasts, if this is a female, if it's a male, testicular, stomach cancer, she has symptoms, there's blood in her stools when she goes to the toilet, there might be blood in her urine, whatever it is, or she's vomiting, whatever it is, she will get a diagnosis and put her mind at ease, or put herself into the system where she goes for treatment. The treatment for any sort of cancer is so good these days. People can live without fear or of anything, because they go have their chemotherapy, they have it at a regular time, at a regular period of time, and they continue their life living their best life. And this person has no diagnosis at present, so it's kind of frightening him or herself by coming up with this. I feel trapped. I've had symptoms that strongly suggest. What are those symptoms that would give such a strong suggestion? And why on earth would you not go either present yourself to your GP, and if you don't have a GP, there will always now be a GP available to you in any doctor's practice, and this person needs to get their mind put at ease, because this can, and I don't want to offend them, but this can also be a psychological fear.
Yes, sure.
And that it's messing with their mind.
Speaking of that, what do you make of that line? The thought of hospitals, the loss of dignity, being examined, being weakened, being pitied and turned into a patient.
Well, I spent nearly 40 years working in a hospital as a nurse and a midwife, and I can tell you that this perceived loss of dignity, there isn't a loss of dignity when you maintain the dignity of the patient or the client. You always make sure the curtains are pulled. You make sure that you're not being overheard if you're discussing something that's complex, or something that's very private, or something that involves their private parts or whatever. And as a midwife, there was a lot of that in our lives, and you never thought about anything except having a healthy baby and a healthy mammy at the end of the outcome of that delivery. So, this person has symptoms of something, but you can get so paranoid about feeling that something is wrong that you're going around with a fear of dread and not living your best life because you think there might be something wrong, and yet hasn't gone to a medic or a nurse and say, could I have a workup? Could I have a checkup? Could you send me for an X-ray? Could you send me for an MRI? Could you send me for something?
And this person could well find that this is a thing of nothing. And can you imagine the elation then, and the happiness around that would be.
But you see, there is when when this presents as being a problem, when they haven't investigated or gone to a doctor or a nurse or any clinician, it suggests that they are building a narrative for themselves which can actually make them ill, because they feel, do you know what, I'm really not feeling well, I really think I have something. Did you go to the doctor? Oh gosh, no. You'd have a loss of dignity. I'd rather have a loss of dignity than a loss of my life. And that's the bottom line.
All right, Phil, pleasure as always. Thanks very much indeed. If you have a query for Phil, if you have something you'd like her to have a look at, all you have to do is email. It's tiptoday@tipfm.com, and if you put Dear Phil in the subject bar, we will know what you're at. Thanks, Phil. We'll take a break. Back with more.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
It's time for Tip FM's Spotlight on Disability, and this week Rachel Callahan spoke to members of our New Ears organisation.
Tip FM investigates. Funded by the News Reporting Scheme. Disability in Tipperary.
Rachel Broderick is a mother based in Thurles who joined the Happy New Year movement after her oldest child, Sarah, was diagnosed with profound deafness. The organisation is a community-led organisation formed by parents of deaf and hard of hearing children. Rachel's time working with the movement not only changed her own life, but the life of many children living in Tipperary and all over Ireland. Rachel, could you tell us what led you to what was then known as the Happy New Year and now known as our New Year organisation?
I had Sarah, typical normal pregnancy. We thought that Sarah might have a hearing difficulty or be deaf when she was about 12 months old. It took about 2 years to get conclusive diagnosis. We were in the time where there was a lot of audiology struggles in Ireland. There was significant struggles in audiology in Ireland in general. When Sarah was diagnosed, we eventually went forward for a cochlear implant. She got one, as was the norm in Ireland. Happy New Year launched a campaign to look for two for every child, because there's a significant improvement in quality of life and success rates when you have two. That was successful. It was gone past the time for Sarah, but I actually had another child who was also deaf at this point. So Daniel had 2 implants, and when Sarah turned 9, they actually had gotten through the backlog and gave every child 2 implants.
At the time of Sarah's diagnosis, was there sufficient support in Tipperary?
We've had quite a lot of support, Tip, in fairness, from our side of things. We were getting no speech and language therapy, but we reached out to Michael Lowry at the time, and Sarah was given speech and language therapy every 2 weeks for 2 years, which made a big difference. It was detrimental if we didn't get this therapy. She wouldn't have, progression of normal speech patterns. So it was really, really impactful, because you can't catch back up. You can't revert back to the age where someone's malleable and capable of getting the level of speech that Sarah has. Our New Year's then we formed, and we attended all the peer-to-peer support, and we just done various therapies, but it was all kind of community-led.
And why were there such little supports available?
There is no local services even. We're in Templemore now, but at the time we were in Thurles, there is very, very little staffing for speech and language therapy across Ireland. But Tipperary is quite a large county, and we've incredibly few resources in that sense. St Mary's Clinic in Thurles had someone I think they used to visit once every 2 months. But if you consider the amount of children that go into any school at 5, all the little baby infants going in, think of the level of children that require speech and language on average. For one person to visit every 2 months is really difficult, and not everyone can travel. Clonmel has a couple of resources, but that's it. You've got Nina, Clonmel, or Thurles, and they're all intermittent. They're moving around catchments, and they're going and doing one day here, and then a couple of months later they'll do another day.
Since Sarah has been born, have you noticed progression across the county?
Progress has been made, but I don't suppose it's come mostly from speech and language services or anything like that. But the fact that inclusion has become much more topical and much more prevalent in society in general, if you think about the likes of AI and the technology that we've access to now, Sarah's level of captioning services is much better, so she can access education better. She can also improve her literacy. She can improve her understanding of speech through reading it and hearing it at the same time. So these are things that kind of build up your muscle when it comes to understanding language.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Happy New Year cochlear implant movement?
So in the UK, and we usually do follow the UK, Ireland, they had provisioned that every child would get 2, but in Ireland we were still doing 1. International studies and kind of basically just about any kind of doctor was preaching how much more value you could have if a child had 2 ears. You'd have more sound localization, you'd have stronger ability to build up your auditive memory. There was kind of loads of different things like spatial awareness. All of this comes in with having 2 cochlear implants. And you have to remember that when you get 1 cochlear implant, that isn't just 1 perfect ear. It's still you still have a mild to moderate hearing loss with a cochlear implant, and you still have limited functionality on hearing. So we weren't saying like, oh, they have 1 ear, sure, they're fine now, they can hear. The case is that they don't have it. So if we can give it in 2 ears, at least we're giving something. There's a parity there, and it's bringing up the base level. Also, there was a recall in cochlear implants back then. Some of them had to be recalled because there was a faulty node inside them. So children, they take out the implant and they've nothing else. We engaged with the orthodontist. We also had engaged with Cochlear, the company who manufactured them directly, and kind of gone through how cheaply they could do it. They announced that on the budget, and we were actually there on the day that they announced it in the budget.
How did being part of the Happy New Year movement impact your family, and was it a good source of support for you?
It was fantastic for me. I don't know how I would have done it without these ladies. I still meet these women regularly. We all kind of came together because we all had the same idea that, look, we don't want to be thinking in 10 years' time, I wish someone had done something 10 years ago because it would all be well now. Sarah was diagnosed and I had no one, whereas I was in this movement when Daniel was diagnosed. So like the difference in being able to talk to people about, I'm going in here, what do you think's going to happen, talking it through, like all of that community was around me. Everyone knew, everyone was kind of giving me advice, and the language and audiology, while it's not invasive, it's not comfortable either. It's a difficult appointment, especially for young children and getting hearing aid moles, and it's hitting the eardrum and they're getting upset. And I just had all of these people around me who were willing to kind of share tips and tricks.
Were there services that really helped you and Sarah?
Well, I have to say there is Chime, which is the National Association for Deaf. They kind of work in Tipperary in the sense that they will fit out the school, and they'll send someone down to fit out the school with all the equipment you need. So like there's a sound field system, which is like little speakers, the teacher wears a mic. You can progress on to having an FM system, which is the teacher wears a mic around their neck and it goes directly into Sarah's implants. So all of that was kind of provided directly into our school in Tipperary. Sarah was in the presentation at the time. So that was great services to be getting into. Like speech and language was something that we didn't really get. We got a little bit of occupational therapy. That was brilliant. We were delighted. Luckily enough, there's quite good occupational therapy accessibility in Thurles itself in the nursing home.
Why was there no speech and language support available?
There was no therapists. The waiting list is too high. I believe that hasn't come down. I mean, I still get calls from newly diagnosed parents to see what it's going to be like in the future for them. But the lists have not gotten less. Like the government are not investing in that area. We have these wonderful nurses and medical people graduating in Ireland, and they're generally immigrating. They're not staying.
And Sarah, what were some challenges you faced in the earlier years of your diagnosis?
I wouldn't be able to be in larger groups because I'm with my SNA trying to learn how to speak and hear properly. So I remember being taken out to do extra reading.
What were some supports that helped you or maybe still help you?
Like the FM for school, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's my favourite tool ever. I can hear the teachers really clearly, and even in a loud classroom, I'm still getting information.
What are some challenges you're still facing or people your age may be facing?
If they're doing the Leaving Cert or the Junior Cert, I find if you're doing Irish or German, the listening is very difficult. They don't give you any additional learning material to practice your listenings. They kind of give you 1 or 2 previous years, and I found that very difficult personally.
Do you feel this adds more pressure while you prepare for your Leaving Cert?
Definitely, especially in English. I love English. It's it takes 5 minutes for me to actually come up with the correct word that I want, but I have it in my head.
Yeah, auditory memory is it's categorically connected with being deaf. You know, it's just not as strong in someone who is deaf.
Who can support you with this issue?
Currently, I only have support from like my counsellor, guidance counsellor, and my German teacher. He checks everything for my disability.
Do you think schools in Tipperary are aware of these issues?
I wouldn't say so. My German teacher was shocked that we didn't have enough practice material. I had 3 years only.
What advice would you both have? Are there any organisations in Tipperary you think people should be aware of?
There's a lot more services than you think there are. The youth groups, and a lot of them are organic in Tipperary. Fantastic and such a resource. A lot of non-state provided resources, but they are there. And I'd say an awful lot of that advice will come correctly from a local kind of school.
There's a youth group here in Toomevara. It's quite a lovely youth group. It's really to help young people connect with other people and also get real life experience as well. I got to meet loads of lovely people as well. Advice I'd give is just keep trying. My dad would always tell me about how he'd hear me in my bedroom at night time as a child, practicing words I heard that day to try perfect my speech.
Although Rachel and Sarah have made lifelong connections through the Our New Ears organisation, they've taken a step back since Rachel's children are slightly older. However, the organisation continues to carry out important work. Laura Keating is now involved. And Laura, could you tell us what are some gaps that Our New Ear are still focusing on?
There's massive gaps with regards to the provision of Irish Sign Language for people to access services, to access medical services, educational services, from primary right up through secondary school, and also therapeutic services. So the speech and language services that deaf and hard of hearing children will be offered, they're very much tailored towards hearing children and hearing young people, unless you have a therapist that is trained in dealing with a child or a young person with a hearing loss. We have fantastic speech and language therapists who work out of, the Hearing Implant Centre in Beaumont Hospital, but they only obviously service children and young people who have cochlear implants. Most people with a hearing loss would use hearing aids. So there's a massive, massive gap. So we have about 70 to 75 babies who are identified through the newborn screening, but we have 4,500 children and young people who are currently in full-time education. The numbers are I would feel, low in that service. In other countries, you might have teachers of the deaf, as they're called, with maybe 30, 40, 50 kids in their caseload. In Ireland, we have over 200 per teacher of the deaf. That alone speaks volumes about the type of service that is currently being offered by the NCSE. It just doesn't match up. Tipperary is a big county, and you might have one teacher who has to travel the length and breadth of the area to visit the children and the young people in their area. That's certainly something that we continue to lobby for with the government, with the NCSE, for education and young people, to really keep the needs of deaf and hard of hearing people to the forefront of their mind. Educational outcomes of this group of students, that's not examined in any great detail. The NCSE published a paper, it's well over, I'd say 12 years ago now at this stage, that, their mission was that, deaf and hard of hearing students would have, their educational outcomes will be on a par with their hearing peers. And that's almost a direct quote from their paper. But they've never measured it. So if we don't know what we haven't measured. So we don't know where really the massive gaps could be. Pessimistic, and they're historic now at this stage with regard to educational outcomes. Reading ages of deaf and hard of hearing kids and historically have been quite low. We see fantastic, both academic and, sporting and social achievements by deaf and hard of hearing people. But without the fundamental supports, from primary school right up into secondary school and third level, of course, do people really reach their potential? And that's something that we as a group, as Our New Ears, will continue to ask of our public representatives, we'll ask it of the NCSE, of the Department of Education, the civil servants. We'll continue to push that because it's really, really, really important. Language is a basic human right, education is a basic human right, and we just can't have that ignored.
Following on from the cochlear implant movement, what are some successful moments that Our New Ears have been part of?
We identified that there was a specialist speech and language therapy. It's called auditory verbal therapy. That's a play-based therapy specifically targeted towards deaf and hard of hearing children who wish to access, sound and develop spoken language ultimately. So some really generous parents allowed us to sit in on their therapy sessions with their children. When we saw this therapy in action, we said, we really need to have this in Ireland. Now, there was nobody here that could provide that service. We were delighted to receive funding, which we applied for. We got a group of speech and language therapists to come and sit in a room and learn the basics. And over time, we kept fundraising, we kept lobbying, and now we have 4 fully qualified auditory verbal therapists in Ireland.
What advice would you have for any parents who are maybe thinking of joining or would like some support?
Well, I think for us, it's been really empowering. I think one of the biggest changes when you become part of a community is that it can help you to stop feeling alone and isolated. There's nearly 1,000 members in the Our New Ears group. So that alone speaks volumes, that there's a power in numbers. And particularly like when your child meets other deaf children or other children who use hearing technology, and when parents meet families further along their journey, it just changes everything. It just gives you hope. It gives you a sense of, I suppose, high expectations, really. And I think it just gives confidence, a sense of belonging, reassurance. And for me, it helped shift my focus from fear just to possibility.
Thank you to Laura, Rachel and Sarah for talking to us today. For anyone looking for support, do reach out to Our New Ears.
Tipp FM investigates. Funded by the News Reporting Scheme. Disability in Tipperary. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007.
Tonight is a very special occasion for the community of Toomevara as 8 first-class relics are being placed in the local church where members of the community and people from across the county indeed will gather to visit them during a special mass. Now, Bernard O'Neill is one of the organisers of the event and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Bernard.
Good morning, friend.
And you're very welcome indeed. Yourself and your wife, you began organising these masses some time ago, and they happen monthly, I think, Bernard.
Yeah, the last Wednesday night of every month, 7:30. We have rosary at 7 and mass at 7:30. It came about just to give you a brief history as to why or how. A son of ours, who was only 41, just over 2 years ago, got very ill with liver, and the liver went and took the kidneys as well. And he was, at that stage, they gave him 2 weeks to live. And naturally, we were all in bits. And we heard of a guy in Limerick called Fergal Golden. Fergal runs the Padre Pio Prayer Centre in Limerick. And we contacted him. He went to the hospital to Ronan, and he blessed him with, he had 3 first-class relics with him on the day of St. Padre Pio. And he prayed with him, he stayed with him for about an hour. And over the next few days, Ronan showed amazing signs of improvement. He is now 2.5 years on. He has put on weight. He's living a normal life. He's back driving. He is on dialysis 3 times a week, and he will have to have transplants down the road.
Yes.
But in the course of all of that, Fergal was telling us that Fergal himself spent 19 years in hospital. He has some kind of a rare blood disease, and he, as he'd say, he has a brilliant testimony. I've heard it a few times. It's a long story, not going into it now, but he the man is a walking saint, to be honest with you. A really, really nice guy.
It's an incredible story. I'm delighted about your son, particularly when he was only given two weeks to live. It's an incredible story. What exactly, by the way, is a first-class relic as opposed to a relic, Bernard?
I suppose a first-class relic is something totally personal to the saint, be it a little bit of our bone, which is very often the case in a lot of first-class relics, or in St. Padre Pio, an awful lot of his relics are Fergal, for example. He has one of his heart bandages, which still has the blood stain on it. Wow. He has one of his gloves, and actually there is a second glove going to be in Toomevara tonight. He also has one of the side bandages, because, as you know, St. Padre Pio had the stigmata most of his life. Yeah. So something, be it their blood, the glove you wore, a bit of their bone, that's a first-class relic. And I suppose St. Faustina, I've heard of St. Faustina of Divine Mercy. St. Faustina was asked, what's so special about a first-class relic? And she made what I would describe as a very profound statement. She said, when you have a first-class relic in your presence, the saint standing beside you. Wow. And that's how she described it. So people, people, tonight, for example, I suppose what's making tonight, and this is why I'm delighted you contacted me today, because tonight is extra special in Toomevara, because we normally have every month the first-class relics of Padre Pio, first-class relic of St. Faustina, and a first-class relic of St. Therese of the Little Flower. But tonight we have also coming, a man is bringing it from the north of Ireland. He got it from, St. Carlo Acutis.
Sure, the young boy, yes, yeah.
He was only canonized there last year.
Yeah.
This man got a first-class relic from his mother, and he's bringing that to Toom tonight as well. Oh. And we also have a relic of St. Charleville. I'm sure you've heard of him, from the Lebanon. He's a powerful saint. Anyone going to Medjugorje would know all about St. Charleville, because they talk about him all the time. But the amount and number are in their hundreds of thousands of miracles associated with that particular saint. So in all, as you said in your opening statement, there'll be 8 first-class relics in Toomevara tonight. After Mass, everybody will get their chance to be blessed with them.
I was just going to ask you that, Bernard. What access will people have tonight?
They can come and venerate the relic. They can hold it. They can bless themselves with it, or they can be blessed with it by the priest or some of the people that are bringing the relics. And I suppose the big thing about being blessed with a first-class relic is that in some way, and this goes for everybody that's blessed with a first-class relic will receive a blessing. Now, it may be healing, it may be peace, it may be reconciliation, maybe acceptance. It may be anything. And like this, the biggest saying in the church is, the Lord chooses who he wants to heal. And people, we have seen some incredible things over the years with first-class relics and with prayer. But there's no doubt about it. Anybody know? Tonight is special for the youth, because they tend to associate themselves with St. Carlos, because he was young.
He was a gamer. He was into his computer games and all of that kind of thing, wasn't he? Yeah.
And he used that, and he converted so many people to Catholicism in the course of using his video games and his computers.
Did he?
I was only reading that the other day. But he the youth. I actually sent a letter to all the secondary schools in North Tipperary and asked the principals just to because people coming into exam time, youth, worrying about their leaving cert and their junior cert or whatever. So it's well publicised.
And I know that young people relate to him, because I often speak to Father Michael Toomey about him, and he told me his full story, and it's just a fascinating story indeed. I'd love to have more time with you. I hope you'll come into us sometime, Bernard. We might talk about your experiences over the years, because I'd love to hear more, and sadly I'm out of time now. But what time tonight in Toomevara, Bernard?
So tonight we start off with the rosary at 7 o'clock, and that's optional for people if they want to. But the Mass itself is at 7:30. Usually Mass is over about 10 past, 8.
Yeah.
And then the relics will be all there. And everybody will get their chance to be blessed with all 8 relics that's there tonight.
Excellent. Well, we wish you well indeed, and I hope to see you dancing in the round hill at some point as well.
Oh, anytime you're playing there, we're there.
Well, you're very kind. Have a wonderful night, and as I say, it's an open invitation to you. I'd love you to come in and talk to us about your experiences over the years, because I'm sure it's fascinating. Look after yourself, Bernard. Thank you.
God bless. Thanks a million.
Bye-bye. It's Bernard O'Neill speaking to us there. That's it from me. Leanne produced. Stevens is on the way with the title. And my absolute apologies to you, because we've had so many text and WhatsApp and emails and phone calls that we just didn't get any chance to get through the half of it. But we always appreciate you corresponding with us. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves. Enjoy the wonderful weather, won't you? Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.